But when I peel that back, in order for that to happen, so that the water quality issues are not as bad as they are, so that habitat is restored or stayed, improved, when I peel back sustainable farmland, then I have to say, well, I have to figure a way for those farmers to be sustained as farmers. So then I have to say, well, I have to help find markets that pay a fair price. So then I end up peeling it back and recognizing that institutional markets down here and restaurants, schools, hospitals, Mayo is my big baby right now. I need to court them and help them to get on this bandwagon and therefore support the farmers that I want on the landscape. So that's really what drives me working for LSP now after 10 years. So within the community-based food work, at least for me down here, another of my components is education or outreach. Because despite all this other stuff about all the different sectors and the Mayos and schools and all this other thing, really who drives the food system is you, us, me, all of us. And so a big piece of my work, in my opinion, is to encourage you and help you and teach you and me all at the same time how to do this thing called local. What is it and how do we do it? And don't get me wrong about education. It is confusing. People stop long enough like you all have to say, okay, well, it is not just the same old in terms of buying food, but it's where do I buy it? And why am I buying this one versus that one? And how many stops can I make versus how many stops do I want to make for a given week? And how am I prioritizing what I'm doing? So in a way, that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. But in a way, I want you to talk to all of us about it. So I want to use a couple of examples. And I'd like to start with apples because we are in the apple capital of the country, we like to say, at least the state. And say, okay, so we are in April still. And Levon made apple pie bars. Is that what you call them? Apple pie bars for us from Regent's apples that Harry and Jackie Hope grow for us just up the road a few miles. And they've been in storage, and they certainly have seen better days. I think Levon did the perfect thing for them, which is to mix them up with cinnamon and sugar and bake them. What are you all doing about apples right now? Are you buying them? We'll start out simple. You're buying them. Anybody else buying them right now? Okay.
Are complaining desperately because I'm not.
Because you're not. Okay.
We're
so
eating our 52 jars of applesauce that we can.
Fantastic. All right. So you are not buying apples on purpose, I gather?
Relatively.
Right. Relatively on purpose. Fair enough. There's a lot of relativity in my food decisions, too. Okay, so for those of you who are buying them, where are they coming from? Washington? Washington. And this is Lidl's apples here. Fair enough. Okay.
Controlled atmosphere storage, and that's the key. Because controlled atmosphere storage, you can put those apples to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And when you break open that room, then you take those apples out and sell them. But we don't have that in Minnesota. There is one orchard that does have that in the state of Minnesota.
Is that Pepin Heights?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Washington, anybody buying, who else grows apples? Oh, New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand. Pardon? Chile. All right. That's where you're getting yours, Tom? He grows apples. Okay. Are you eating his apples right now?
He's got some nice apples.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty fantastic. All right. So Washington State is a fair piece away. How does that equate with local? Like, how is local? How is that local for you because it's in the country?
It's not local.
It's not local. Okay. What's your thought about whether your Washington apples are local versus, we'll say, New Zealand?
I think we've gone so global that I think of Washington as fairly local.
Fairly local. Okay, good. I mean, not good, just interesting. Okay. All right.
Is local not controlled by Monsanto or ADM. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Okay, there's another definition of local.
If they could control it, they probably would, but they haven't found a way to patent it.
That's the thing.
Okay, so in your mind then, when you are shopping and having to weigh one thing or another, is that a priority for you? That, God darn it, it has not got the Monsanto stamp on it?
It's local. If Farmer Joe is trying something, well,
That's okay
otherwise
with that's okay with you. Okay, all right. Now, so yeah.
Aren't they saying local is 150 miles radius?
Well, actually, Bluff Country Co-op up in Winona just came out with its definition. I haven't asked Liz, the manager, yet, but they said 151 miles, maybe just to be contrarian. I don't know. What if you lived in Arizona? Or Nevada, or New Mexico, or Texas even? Terry.
Some people talk about local more in terms of, as the gentleman was talking about, not Monsanto and not controlled by, but talking about it in terms of food to the story.
Okay.
Personal story attached. So, for example, I very often buy my coffee from one of our coworkers whose husband has a family-owned coffee plantation in Honduras. Mm-hmm. And I feel the same way about buying that product as I do about buying my brother's pork. Mm-hmm. Because it's got the face and the story, and I know it's controlled and enriching this family that I care about. Mm-hmm. So there's that piece of it, too, that doesn't have anything to do with geography.
That's a great point. Okay, Terry, so what if... so we know Guillermo's family a little bit. What if the New Zealand apple... there was this lovely, like what Whole Foods does, or used to do at least, there was this lovely poster, nice big poster, of the grower or the family who produced that New Zealand apple. So how would you feel about that? And it's still March or April.
I'd say it's a scam.
You say it's a scam? Okay. So, Tom.
There's no personal connection.
Yeah,
there's no personal connection. Okay. All right. I happen to personally agree with that. I also buy coffee from our colleague's family because I don't know Guillermo's family, but I know Guillermo and his wife Kathy, and that just feels fantastic to me. And I also know, this is an important thing for me, is that my coffee dollar, which I spend many on, is going almost directly into that family's economy and that community that they live in. And I also happen to know some of the direct consequences of Kathy and Guillermo's coffee business up here for that community, their home community, down in Honduras. And that's important to me.
Is that similar to the equal exchange coffee and chocolates?
That is a huge premise of fair trade, which equal exchange is the sort of mothership of. Absolutely, yeah. All right, so now let's stick with apples for a couple more minutes. It is October. So now who's buying apples? And where are they coming from? LaCrescent. All right. Anybody still buying apples from anywhere else? Maggie, you're fired. Okay.
If there's a Honeycrisp and there's none of the Minnesota ones and you just want one, sometimes I'll buy a Honeycrisp from something.
Okay. Fair enough.
I admit it.
Yeah, it's okay. All right.
It's a confession.
I know it is. It's not meant to be confession. I'll tell you, yes.
But there should be a Minnesota Honeycrisp in October.
And there almost usually is. Sometimes you hit a store that just doesn't have their act together.
That's absolutely true. They don't most of them don't have their acts together, but we're working on that. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And then maybe you should talk to the produce manager.
You bet. Absolutely. So that is a really good point to talk to your produce manager. It's amazing what will be accomplished when the customer speaks, and you are the customers. So the point of this isn't to talk about two confessions. It's more to show up some of the reasons, some of the vast array of reasons why people buy this or that, and how they differ when it's in one month of the year versus another month of the year. It's like what you said about the percentage of food that you've sourced around yourself. It's different in July or August versus in February or March or April, for sure. All right, let's turn our sights to tomatoes for just a couple minutes. Oops, I shouldn't do that. Sorry. Tomatoes. Okay. So across the river in Melrose, Wisconsin, there is a fantastic hydroponic tomato business. They're just called Melrose Tomatoes. I don't even know if the farm has a particular name. I'm sure it does, but they're just known as Melrose Tomatoes, and they're available year-round. Does anybody buy them? I find them. I don't buy them anymore, but I find them at the LaCrosse Co-op, People's Food Co-op. Anybody buying them? You are? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's okay. Now, why do you buy them?
I buy them when I am making something that I need a fresh tomato for.
Uh-huh. And is that all year round? Because they're now available just about all year round, I think, actually. I must confess I haven't paid much attention to them this winter.
Only in the winter.
In the winter. Okay, where do you buy tomatoes in the summer?
I get them in our garden.
Okay.
Or I get them from the garden or from the farmer's.
All right. Okay. Anybody else buying tomatoes right now? Melrose or otherwise? Yeah. And where are they coming from?
Mexico,
Mexico?
which is not 150 miles from here.
It's not 151 miles from here either.
And I